do a better job of this than I am. Okay? So this brought us to where we left off, which was page 63. And it starts off, we're going to start off with the reading, when we sincerely took such a position. So Amy, over to you to organize reading.
Okay, hold on really quick. I want to ask a couple questions before we go forward. On that page 62 in the Bronx, the guy share, he said that whole section in there where you change it to the I and all that, he called it the self-will toolkit or the selfish toolkit. You know how like we've got so many parts of the book, we call this our toolkit or whatever. And he said, I always think about this section as my toolbox for self-centeredness and self-will. Like that section of reading, I thought that was cute. But I was going to ask, I have two questions. Is putting it up on the screen useful to you guys, or do you want me to keep doing that so we can, okay, I see Johnny Mac saying yes. Okay, I just want to make sure you guys are good with it. Okay, so before I put it back up, who would like to read? Anybody want to read? Karen, you're unmuted. Did you want to read?
Sure.
Okay, so we are going to start with actually what is that? The very first paragraph of page 63?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be the one that's when we sincerely took.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. How it works, Karen, alcoholic, addict. Let's see. When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer. Being all powerful, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We were reborn.
Okay, let's just stop there. Okay, this is when we sincerely took such a position. Now, what is the position we're taking? The position we're taking is that we are going to stop playing God. Okay? And we're taking the position that we're letting God come into our life. And I have written in the margin here, the work is not on myself, but to be rid of myself. Okay, I am getting out of self. That is what the whole object is here, is to turn it over, to stop being the director, to stop playing God. Okay, and then it says, he provided, and notice it's capital H. So wherever you see these capitals now, it's our higher power. So it says, we had a new employer. The E is capitalized. So my higher power is now my employer. Being all powerful, you've heard higher power referred to as omnipotent. That's all powerful. He, again, it's capitalized. That's my higher power. Provided what we needed. If is a condition, I keep close to him and I perform his work well. Okay, so I'm changing the we to the I there because we collectively, it's written in we because it's a we program. But when I'm trying to identify with this, I'm saying I need to stay close to my God. I need to perform his work well. I need to let my God work through me. And that is work. Work. Faith without works is dead. So there's the answer to the question. I go to church all the time. but I'm still drinking, I pray not to drink. You are attending church. All right? But your connection with your higher power is for you to have a little further conversation about. Because when I have performed his work well, he is my employer with the capital E. Get it? I've given up being the director. I've given up being self-employed. I've given up thinking I've got the answers. I have said, okay, over to you, higher power. That is exactly what this is saying. And then I have this next whole, starting with established, I have all the rest of that highlighted. And I said, this is what it means to turn will and my life over. That is what these words are saying. Established on such a footing. Such a footing, what it means again, I've turned my will over to my higher power. That's the footing. It follows we become less and less interested in ourselves. Why? Because we're now interested in God's work. Our little plans and designs, that's Bill being sarcastic, micromanaging, trying to rule everybody else, trying to organize life, and some of you, the program your own way, like I did. I took from this program what worked for me. I didn't do what was suggested. I didn't go to personal meetings because I found them uncomfortable. And I left as soon as a meeting was over if I did go to a personal meeting so they wouldn't get to know me. That was my way of doing AA. So then more and more we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. Think about what it says in the morning when we do our on awakening. We gradually find a working part of our mind where we're thinking less about ourselves and turning it over to God. Okay? And as a result, here's a promise, we feel new power flow into us. Because we can shed off the frigging weight of being responsible for everything. My goodness, I was so exhausted being the director and the employer and the stage manager. And frankly, I wasn't good at all those jobs. But I just assumed because I didn't know differently that I had to rule the world. So the new power is flowing in from the responsibility is leaving us that we have to run the show. The power of God is flowing into our life and we enjoy peace. That's a promise. Enjoy peace of mind. As we discover, we can face life successfully. Why? Because we become conscious of his, notice it's a capital H, our higher power's presence. And this is the beginning of it, right? It's saying we become conscious, right? We're just starting to realize we're not the director. And we begin to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. And that's what we're going to do in step 4. Here we're talking about we're beginning because we're opening our mind. We're really going to do some work on it in step 4. And then it says, we were reborn. I look upon this as here's where I get to shed the weight of that suit of armor that I've been building plate by plate my entire life to protect me from what I fear and from being in control of myself and everybody else around me. I'm reborn lighter. Okay? So now this takes us to step 3. Now, this paragraph is I'd like everybody to read this. This is the 3rd step prayer. Now, this is something that is suggested in this book of how to write, how it should be said, but I invite you to write your own. Okay? So it says, now it's step 3, and then I want everybody to unmute and read that prayer out loud as it's written. Okay? So can we allow everybody to unmute?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's with us and it's highlighted on your screen. So who's in charge? God.
I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties,
Take away my
victory over
difficulties,
them,
Victory
may
over
bear
them.
witness
power over them,
those I would
may
help,
victory over them, may bear
thy
witness
love,
those that I would
and
help
thy
with thy power, thy power, thy way of life.
May I
May
do thy
I do thy
will
will
always.
always.
That is the end of it. Now, let's go break it down. God, okay, higher power, however you want to call it. I'm offering myself, and notice thee is capitalized. So we're offering ourselves to that higher power. I want you to build with me. Here I am. Take me just as I am, right? And do with me as you care to, right? I've stopped fighting. I am not trying to micromanage this disease anymore. Over to you, God. But not just that, you're going to take all of me. And I'm going to let go and let you do with me what you please. That's going to be the surrender. Relieve me, take it away of the bondage. And Gary's got the definition in there. What's bondage? Enslavement, being bound as a slave. Alcohol is our higher power. Being in a circumstances that places one under the power or of authority of another of other forces, powers, or influences, including alcohol, okay? But also notice it specifically says bondage of self, self-will. That is the root of our problem. Ego. So here we're saying, relieve me, please, of the bondage of myself. Why? Not because I can go shopping and get more money, but I want to do your work that I may better do. And again, see, it's thy is capitalized. So it's my higher power's will. It's no longer Jill's will. It's Jill's higher power's will. It's no longer Lori's will. It's Lori's higher power's will. And each and every one of you, that's what we're looking at here when we write whatever third step's going to work for us, is that, you know, let me do what you want me to do. Let me stop interfering with who I can be. Then it says, specifically, take away my difficulties, but for a reason that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help. It's not saying take away my difficulties so that I don't have any more problems and I can be stress-free. It's saying take away my difficulties so that I can do your work. And then I can help others with thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. Let me spread this message of my higher power so you too can enjoy the power, the love, and the way of life as your higher power is trying to show you. But right now, early in recovery, I'm in my way, right? I got to get out of my way. This is all what we're doing here in step 3. We are saying in step 2, we became willing. In 3, we're saying, I'm done. Over to you, God. And that is why step 1, 2, and 3 is the foundation of the rest of our program. It is absolutely the solid cement below the ground. And it is what we're going to build everything else on. If it isn't solid, the whole house comes crashing down. Okay, so this is really, no matter where you're at, and if you've done the steps before, and we discussed this in, before as well, there's no harm in doing them again. If you've got fears and you've got emotional issues that have come up for you that you question your emotional sobriety, go back to this. Turn it over. Whatever is eating up at you, are you trying to control the situation? I know I fall back into it where I start trying to control my partner, or I try starting, controlling the way everybody behaves around me. I have to step back sometimes and let it unfold the way it's meant to. Now, you notice It then says, may I do thy will always. I'm all in. I'm not saying I'm going to do it for the next 30 days. I'm going to do it until my court order for 90 days is over with. I'm going to do it until I can get back with my partner. This is saying I'm in, and here's why we relapse. Over and over and over again, because we're not all in. At least that's my experience for myself and talking to a lot of people who are relapsing. What happens? The old self-will comes back in. We've had enough of these discussions to know, right? Oh, I can do it my way. I've been sober this long. I'm feeling good. I can drink again. And again, we make our self-will the center. So can everybody see what this is saying? Because we can't move on. If there's any questions about what we're committing to, this is where we stay. Because it says we thought well before making this step, making sure we were ready, that we could at last abandon, give up, right? Abandon ourselves utterly. Utterly is another word for completely. Giving over 100%, not 99.5. Anything less than complete concession to this step means I will drink again. Now, has anybody got any questions at this point about this? Because this is really the crossing point. And then, you know, we sit and we, sorry, I guess something weird happened there. Okay, so before we go on, the homework is to write your own third step. Write your own third step prayer in your own language. And then I invite you to write it on a card like this. That's my own version. And I must pick this card up and say it at least half a dozen times a day. And often before I pick up the phone to a call from a sponsee. Because I'm asking God to direct my thinking. I'm abandoning myself over to God to do God's will. I said that prayer before I logged in tonight, right? It's not my words. These are the message that I'm trying to convey is what my higher power is trying to deliver through me. And anyway, so then we go on to the next paragraph. So that was pretty heavy, but that is just to give you an idea of how important it is. That's how it appears in my book.
Okay, I was gonna see if Sylvia wanted to speak. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to do this all at the same time. So that was me that made that noise.
Oh, okay, that's all right.
Did you want me to read?
Sylvia, do you want to start with we found it very desirable?
Sure, can do. Sylvia, alcoholic. We found it very desirable to take the spiritual step with an understanding person, such as our wife, husband, best friend, or spiritual advisor. But it is better to meet God alone than with one who might misunderstand. The wording was, of course, quite optional, so long as we expressed the idea, voicing it without reservation. This was only a beginning, though if honestly and humbly made, an effect, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once.
Okay, so this is reiterating what I've said. And I think what would be a nice exercise to do for those of you who are willing is to write your own third step prayer. And then next week, perhaps if you would like to, we can share them. And you don't have to, but I just found that the words that were written here, thou wilt and thy and bondage of self and that sort of stuff didn't really resonate with me. So I had to break it down into words that mean something to me, for me to say I'm giving over 100%. So really reflect on that. And then it says, take this spiritual step with an understanding person. So although this group isn't meant to be a replacement for anybody doing this step, if you don't have a step sponsor, you know, give me a call. You know, if it is something that we can do together. And if you're all agreeable, let's raise hands to who's open to the idea of writing one and bringing it back here next week. Just raise your hand if you're up for it. Great. I think that's a really cool thing to do. And then we are going to be with a group of understanding people, right? So, such as our wife, best friend, or spiritual advisor, we're all going to be each other's advisors. And then it says, if you couldn't find somebody to understand, well, we're all lucky to be in here because this is a very close, loving group. It's better to go to God alone rather than to get the message messed up. So really take some time with this. And the whole point is, it is your concession, your abandon, whatever you need to say in your own words to 100% give yourself over. Write it on this card. It does, and this may change as time passes. Your third step prayer may change. Interestingly enough, mine hasn't from the first time I did this exercise. Okay, and then it says the wording was, of course, quite optional. As long as we express the idea, underline this, guys, voicing it without reservation. The language has to be all in. So I suggest looking at words like absolutely, concession. That's why Bill used the word utterly. Anything that really means something to you to say, I'm not holding back anymore. And you can even write out the sentence, I'm not holding back anymore, if that's what your prayer looks like. Okay? And then it says, this is only a beginning, though if honestly and humbly made, an effect, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once. Well, when I read my third step prayer out loud to myself, I cried. Because it got me without reservation. I realized, wow, yeah, I'm all in. I'm all in. So that's the sort of thing I want you to be thinking about when you do this. And Amy, can you make a note of the fact that that's homework so we don't forget that for next week? Okay, let's just go on to the next bit of reading there.
So you
So-
want me to go on just a little bit further?
Well, you know what?
I can, you bet. Okay, Jill?
Yeah.
Okay. Next, we launched out a course of vigorous action, the first step of which is a personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted. Though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face and to be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us. Our liquor was but a symptom, so we had to get down to causes and conditions.
Okay, so this paragraph is where we transition from step 3 to step 4. Okay, it tells us what we're going to do. We're going to have a vigorous, and that's, as Gary's put in our definitions, forceful, energetic, strenuous, full of active force. It doesn't mean half-baked, picking and choosing what works for us. And if you're new in recovery, you don't even have to register this right now. We're just going through it. You know, we're continuing on with the steps, but if you're newly sober, we're squarely on step 1. But I want to go into step 4, and Amy's going to lead on this because I also want you to understand step 4 is not all about beating yourself up. It's also a house cleaning, but also recognizing what we want to keep. Okay? We want to be rid of things, as it says in the definitions, that is blocking us. Our liquor was but a symptom, so we had to get down to causes and conditions. That's what we're cleaning out. But we're also going to keep the good things, and we're going to point out all the good things that were going along with this too. Okay, so notice it says it's personal house cleaning. You ever heard of the saying, I'm taking someone else's inventory? Okay, that's not what we do in here. It's our personal inventory. It's about my stuff. I'm not doing your inventory and telling you what is your stuff. And I don't comment on other people's programs. Okay. And then it says, though our decision, what was our decision? Circle that word. It was the third step prayer we just did. That was our decision to turn it 100% over to God. And it says here, this is a vital. And what does the word vital mean? Essential for life. So definitely write that down. Vital and crucial step. I'll get you in one sec here, Gary. It could have little permanent effect and unless once followed by a strenuous effort to face and be rid of the things in ourselves which have been blocking us. That's what step 4 is about. Let's get rid of the crap that is blocking us to fully connect with our higher power. So your liquor is a symptom of an underlying disease, which is basically we're not connected to our higher power. So go ahead, Gary.
I just wanted to point out when I was doing the definitions, I found it interesting that the definition of housekeeping is repeating the text in the book, right? Liquor was but a symptom, so we had to get down to the causes and conditions, and that stood out for me. So I wanted to point that out.
Absolutely, and this is why we have the definitions. And again, I repeat, if you haven't downloaded the AA Big Book Dictionary PDF, that's where you're going to find words used in a very specific way as meant in this book. Because if you looked up the word house cleaning in Webster's dictionary, it wouldn't have said our liquor is but a symptom. Okay, that's the benefit of going to the AA dictionary. Okay, so this is where we leave step 3. And it's when we say liquor is but a symptom, what that is essentially saying to us, this isn't just about drinking, right? We know, and you've heard it said before, we have a God-shaped hole. And until we can truly connect with a higher power that we truly can turn our lives and our will over to, this doesn't work. That's my experience. But boy, if you can get here and you can get out of your own way, miracles start to happen. Okay, Amy, I'm going to turn this over to you because the next paragraph says, this is Amy's.
I feel bad for everybody that logged in tonight. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to add really quick before, I was going to see if Sherry wanted to read from here, therefore we started, but hold on, was that I do like the definitions, Gary. Thank you for that, because house cleaning, I would have just gone right over it. I liked seeing that definition. And when, just in case you're new, when she says to go to the AA dictionary, like if you go to an in-person meeting or if you go onto aa.org, you can actually order them. They also have it online for free, but they're just a couple bucks. But anyways, recoveryshop.com. But it's the definitions from 1939. It's not like it's AA's definitions, but the one that stands out for me, just to make a point on that dictionary, is when you I want you to think of the word brainstorm for just a second. Okay, so brainstorming in today's world, I actually use this word in class as a step. Brainstorming, most of us probably said in our heads, that's like where a group of people get together and you talk about an idea and you're trying to come up with ideas, and we're brainstorming about what the next steps are with a client or a friend or a family, whatever, right? Sorry, I'm just staring at words. I can't see anybody, so I'm going to turn this off for just a second. Feels weird. But in 1939, when they used brainstorm in the book, in the text, I was in a group and they pulled out the little dictionary and they looked up the word brainstorm. It literally means your neurons are going crazy and having a storm in your brain. And that's what it meant in 1939. So that's where the context, if you're really getting in it, I don't think that these words make a big difference when you're just trying to get stinking sober. Who cares? But when you are diving in deeper, that's where the dictionary does play a role. And I like Gary putting these words in the chat are really helpful. I really like that. Okay. So I'll go back to sharing the screen for step 4, and Sherry, Sherry, would you mind reading that next paragraph, therefore?
Yeah, for sure. Can you guys hear me okay? Amy, can you give me a thumbs up?
Yep, you sound
Okay,
perfect to me.
Therefore, we started upon a personal inventory. This was step 4. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. Taking a commercial inventory is a fact-finding and a fact-facing process. It is an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade. One object is to disclose damaged or unsaleable goods, to get rid of them promptly and without regret. If the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values.
Thank you. Sorry, I can't highlight, do that kind of stuff. I would too many things going on at once. Okay. Thank you, Sherry. So step 4, and you guys, I'm not like Jill, but she's making me do this, so I'm going to go for it. So step 4, I just want to make sure before we go too far, and I know a lot of you know this, but for other people or people new to the group or to the AA, I always got mixed up between step 4 and step 8. Like I didn't know the steps well enough. I thought this was your amends. Like I thought this is where you start thinking about, oh my gosh, who do I need to apologize to? Who have I stolen from? Who did I hurt? That kind of stuff. Step 4 is all internal. It's a personal inventory, right? It says we're taking a personal inventory. So this is where you're going to start to go inside and come up with things that you're frustrated about, you're resentful to, you have anger, ultimately you have fear. And Bill asked us to do it in columns, which is the next page if you haven't read it forward. And if you have your book open, you can glance over on page 65 and you can see how it's in columns. But we're going to go in, and it's kind of a like, at first when I did it, I thought this is like a grudge list. I'm just going to let out all my frustrations. And that's kind of what it is to get going. But you want to work through, and we're going to work through these columns to work through it, because it says take, like a commercial inventory, right? So businesses take a commercial inventory because you don't know what you have to sell if you're not keeping up with your inventory. I mean, if you're not keeping up with your inventory in a business, it'll make or break you, because you don't know what you have on the shelf. You don't know what you're pricing at. You don't know to be ready for the next customer. So in my notes, I had on the fact facing here, like this little section right there, I had written fact finding is your sponsor kind of holding a flashlight over you, and fact facing is the sponsee, fearlessly doing it. So you're searching and fearlessly looking through inventory internal. And so you hear people get scared about this part, but it's a beautiful section, and you're looking for, and we're going to see it in just a second, your assets and you're looking for these resentments and anger, but you've got to remember that you're a good person, and you have a lot of good things going on. We're just trying to dig in and discover the truth, right? Look, one objective is disclose damage and unusable goods and get rid of them without regret, right? And that's what a business owner needs to do. And that's what we need to do internally. So this is real, and it's all just you. You're not sharing this with anybody. I mean, you will eventually with your sponsor, but this is just for you and God, between you and your higher power, to just go in and take a personal inventory. And it goes into great depth. So I'm not going to talk anymore right here. I just want to keep reading. Sylvia, does anybody want to add? Jill, I don't want to be the only person that adds to this.
Okay, so I'm just going to give one other analogy to what we're doing here. Okay, say I've built a house, and on the front of it, it's got the white picket fence. It's perfectly symmetrical. My garden is perfect. Everything in my life looks perfect. And I've gone through and I've done inventory in all these rooms, and I've cleaned them up. And to the rest of you, my life looks perfect. But I drink again. Why? Because I have secret rooms. I have rooms behind doors that I'm not even willing to open because I'm afraid of what might lurk there. This is just between me and God. I'm going to say, okay, God, I'm going to open that door, and I'm going to take a look at what's in that room, and I'm going to own it. And the most amazing thing I found when I went through the process is the room was pretty empty. Wasn't nearly as scary as I thought it was. And once I put it on paper and ultimately vomited it out and looked at the room in all the nooks and crannies and turned the lights on, it was over. That is the beauty of this step. And you can go back to things in your life that we drink at, abuse, all the things that we're going to end up talking about are people drink at. You guys know your own list of things that are your so-called triggers. Those are the things that are in the little rooms that we drink at. And then when we open the door, turn all the lights on, and we go with God into every nook and cranny in that room, we see there's really nothing left there to look at. So we take a look at it, but we don't relive it. We revisit it, we clean it out, and we don't have to go back in there again. And then my house is on display for myself and everybody else to see, because I'm not hiding any secrets anymore, and I'm truly free. So I don't know if that analogy works for you guys. Think of your own. Think of your own secrets and how cathartic, how healing it is to finally go, okay, I did that. Oh, geez, I guess that wasn't, or yeah, that really sucked. That was pretty awful. But I've looked at it, I've shined a light on it, I've seen what it is. I don't have to be afraid of the boogeyman anymore. Okay, back to you, Amy.
Sure. So it is 7:45, so I'm going to stop, but I wanted to just kind of glance down. So remember, these steps do go in order. So if you're still struggling with like steps 1, 2, and 3, remember, this is a big book reading. So we're going to continue reading through the steps. So don't just jump into step 4 if this isn't where you need to be. It might be that you're circling back around and you're ready to jump into step 4, but I really encourage you not to this is a big book study. We're just going to keep going, and then we'll repeat it again when we get to the end, and we're just going to keep reading through the book. So this doesn't mean you personally need to be on step 4 for people in the group. I just don't want anybody to feel overwhelmed. I would feel very overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And we'll get into these columns, so it does get put together. Sometimes I think this section I kind of just need to read and come back before you actually do it. So we'll start right here, Jill, on.
Yeah. And I think, Amy, the other materials that you have and the knowledge that you've got, doing things different ways, we're going to throw a few different things and share some materials with you guys from other ways of doing because Bill actually goes to the 12 by 12 later on and really elaborates on step 4. So next week, we're going to bring in material from the 12 by 12 and other resources that forms and things like that you can take away and work on when you are ready to be at step 4. Now, if you're not at step 4, all of the recordings Amy has reorganized, and we got rid of the first year to clear up some space of the big book readings that we did, and she has started them again and labeled them where they're at from our first start of the book through this time. So if you're new to this program, relapsing or wanting to start your steps again or aren't sure how they work, please go back to those recordings, okay? And you can just play them in the back of your head or just while you're house cleaning or stuff, and just let the words resonate through you. I listen to not my own recordings because I can't stand my own voice, but that's part of why I still go to the Bronx. I need to keep hearing this stuff over and over and over again and chewing it through. I also invite you, if you're new at this, read it out loud to yourself. I did. I read this entire book out loud to myself. I must have sounded like an idiot, but that is how it finally resonated with me, is somehow putting my own voice in it and making it first person where it was necessary really helped me identify with the program. Okay, let's open her up.